Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Radio Geonosis, where we talk about Star Wars from a certain point of view. I'm Angie,
I'm Jim.
and today we're going to be talking about Star Wars comics
Yep.
and how they play a part in the Star Wars world.
Yep.
But before we do that, we're going to be talking about some hot happenings that are going on this week. So for me, my hot happening was, now this was a story that came up and I thought, I'm going to write this down. Disney actively discouraging people from visiting the new Star Wars galaxy? I don't know about that area in Disneyland last quarter, pushing domestic park attendance down 3%. Now, I really don't think that that's a true story or even a true statement, because they really do want to push the galaxy, and they want people to be involved.
Right.
So that's what was kind of puzzling to me.
Yeah.
Another thing that kind of came up was kids are not into Star Wars, and that could be partially true. That could be partially true. Star Wars is struggling to win over the next generation of kids for the French. It could be troubling for the franchise, but I don't know. Hollywood saw the rise of attendance for Universal Studios saw the rise of attendance for the Harry Potter experience.
Right.
But it could be because they do have like a Harry Potter magical thing going on, dark magic thing going on now. So that's probably why.
Mhm.
But one of the reasons that I think that maybe some kids are not really getting into Star Wars is because, and this is going to sound sexist, so please don't take it as this, but there isn't really a guy that the kids can relate to.
Mhm.
They have Kylo Ren, but as far as the good guys, there's not a Luke Skywalker, because Luke Skywalker was killed in the last movie. If you haven't
Right.
seen it, I'm really sorry, but that I just let that out. But
Oh, spoiler alert.
but I think that there isn't a character that boys can say, hey, you know what I mean? I can be that.
Well, you do have Poe Dameron and you do have Finn. Okay, so that's actually two.
But
They're not the hero.
Exactly.
But you know what? They're part of the big three, and it's just like Han Solo being a favorite over Luke. A lot of people like Han over Luke, but
Or do kids just like Fortnite?
or whatever, you know. And the other thing you got to consider today, particularly today, compared to say 40 years ago or 30 years ago or whenever, is that there is a lot more out there to like, and it's not just
You're right.
it's not just Fortnite, like you just mentioned. Harry Potter, people are going to Harry Potter World because Harry Potter is a huge thing. You know, Lord of the Rings became a huge thing in the early 2000s because of the films. Um, and like everything's turning into a franchise of some kind.
Yes.
And then you have the Marvel superheroes and the movies and the comics and all that stuff. And it's
Maybe there's just too many things to put in your shopping cart.
well, that's the thing. I mean, as a Star Wars fan myself, I focus on Star Wars. I don't buy Marvel comics for the Marvel superheroes. I like them, I enjoy them, but I'm not putting a lot of money into it. So really, I think it's just to me an overabundance of bounty, really, in terms of geek culture. It's just everywhere. I do want to speak to the park attendants at Disneyland. Couple of things. Galaxy's Edge has very good crowd control. Um, I have friends who work in the park, so I know things. I don't drink and know things, but I do know things. Um, and crowd control is very specific. And I do know that people who've been going to Galaxy's Edge either regularly, who have annual passes and that sort of thing, um, Galaxy's Edge does go to capacity. They do top it off, and you do sometimes have a wait to get in.
Maybe that is discouraging people to go back. I don't want to really see this. That I don't, like I said, I don't really, these two stories I don't really count as as viable. I think they're just
They can be debunked.
Yeah.
They can be debunked.
Yeah,
And
I just thought it was interesting.
and
I do know that their sales are down, and it's not what they expected.
Well,
I've seen that.
I think part of the problem is actually just keeping things in stock. Because once they sold like a bunch of stuff, like the lightsabers, for example, the Savi's lightsaber experience, They actually had Disney had to cut back on selling spare parts because you could buy the metal parts for the lightsabers as spare pieces. They call it scrap metal, and so like $20 a piece, you can get all the different parts. And then, but they had to cut back on that because they were selling so many of the lightsaber experiences, and they need to keep the parts for those experiences so they can continue to
Oh, you think people are buying parts to maybe,
well, to complete their collection because they want to, they'll get like the original saber that they build through Savi's, lightsaber shop. But they was like, oh, I want an extra piece so I can, modify my saber and do
oh,
other things, and so they can get other parts. And you can do that, or at least they were doing it. Right now, I think they've cut that off for now. Also, they ran out of white and yellow kyber crystals.
wow.
They sold them out. So yeah, their sales are going to go down because right now they're out of stock, and it's been taking them a little bit to restock. And I think as of this recording, right now today's August 14th, 2019. I do not know what the current stock levels of the various things are. Like right now, I personally am interested in a sabacc deck. You know,
You've said that. We need to go because
yeah.
even if attendance is down, that's a time to strike.
Oh yeah.
When the fires
And
strike the coals.
just as an example though, with the sabacc decks, they're $14.99, and they sold out, and they took them a long time to restock. I think they have some right now, but the thing is, you go on sales sites like eBay or
People are
wherever,
ridiculous.
they're reselling them for 3 and 4 times the price,
That's ridiculous.
and then there's a shipping charge on top of it.
Right,
So
right.
so yeah, so and if park attendance is down, and there has been talk of park attendance being down. I think there's an interview with Bob Iger about it. People are a little afraid of going because they were afraid that it was going to be so packed, and it's actually been the opposite. And and for people who plan trips to go to Disney, like they're spending money to drive or fly
Right.
to Anaheim, stay at the hotels, and all these things cost money naturally. So if the Galaxy's Edge attraction is not completely open right now, the second ride's still not open
Right,
yet.
right. And I think that could be kind of a discourager
Yeah,
of maybe going, oh, we'll wait till January when both rides open.
exactly. And I've heard of other folks going, yeah, we're waiting until 2020 so we can experience both rides at the same time for people, planning trips. And because um, Orlando's opening up in the next couple of weeks. I can't remember what day it is, but it's at the end of August. That'll actually adjust some of the flow because people who live on the east side, they're going to want to go to Florida
For
and
that,
see.
because both rides will be open.
No, not yet.
No, just one.
It'll still only have Smuggler's Run, and their Rise of the Resistance ride is opening in December.
Oh, wow.
But at least Galaxy's Edge will be open there
So
as
you'll
well.
have two different places.
So yeah,
The East Coast folks can go there.
right. If they want to go there, and the traffic flow will be different,
Right.
because it's in Disney's Hollywood Studios there, as opposed to here it being in Disneyland. So I think it'll balance out in the end, and attendance may rise. But like I said, Galaxy's Edge has been peaking and filling to capacity, so it's not a problem, I don't think.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I wrote it down, but leave it to Jim to help debunk that story. Also, we did an event. Jim did the event at the Big Bear Renaissance Fair, which was absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, if you go to Big Bear, California, they had a Renaissance fair. It's not a huge one, but it's a fun one. And
It looked really cool.
and we did a show. We had 11 people, and 8 of the people were killed in the show.
But talk about use of all the characters at one time. It was a very good show, put together very well. I loved all the fight scenes. Jim had how many?
Three.
Three
Yeah.
fight scenes. So I really like that. We also did the market, 760 market, which we're going to be doing again October the 4th. So keep that date open. We're gonna,
Gotcha.
and this time I'm gonna make sure we have an easy up in our own area because we didn't have that.
Right.
So I want to make sure we have that this time. But it was a big success, and City of Adelanto is super happy. Did you know that the next day people lined up to be there again. Not
Wow.
real. They thought it was a weekend thing,
Oh, but
and they actually came back the next day for it.
and it's like, we're not here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So they're going to do it again
Well,
and they're going to
that's
do it
really
like an
cool.
October-ish kind of thing. So, like
Well,
almost like a Halloween-y kind of,
yeah,
event.
yeah,
So,
I'm looking forward to that.
yeah,
That'll be
I thought
fun.
that was great. Also, my husband became a member of the 501st it was last week.
Okay.
And then I've now got him all signed up to do events.
Mhm.
He is more of a Star Wars reading fan. He loves the books,
Mhm.
absolutely loves the books. It's going to be a little bit before he can really feel comfortable in the costume.
Right, right.
I'm going to sign him up for an event next month, and I told him I'm going to this same event with the Rebel Legion, and so he is going to be. His costume is Grand Moff Tarkin, which is
Yeah,
perfect. He's
yeah.
perfect for that.
We need more Tarkins. We don't have a lot of them, and I don't think we have a regular Tarkin in SoCal Garrison, to my knowledge.
I think the guy that is the costume that the CRL that I looked at, it was I'm not sure where he was from. Rebel Legion is, 501st is huge, so it's hard to know exactly where the guy was from. I didn't look,
Uh-huh.
but I'm also going to join. I'm going to do the director of intelligence. I forgot her name. Yes.
Isenizard.
Yes, I'm going to do that one.
That's the red uniform with the
Yes.
black hair and the stripe, and
Yeah, but
you
I
have
gotta
two color eyes, and
red eyes.
yeah. Well, no, one eye's red, the other one's blue.
Blue. Okay,
Mhm.
thank God I have both those contacts.
Yeah,
But I think that'd be kind of cool,
yeah. She's a good character. She's really
Yeah.
fun.
All right, so Jim has some other hot happenings, so let's get to that.
Well, there have been a few things happening this week. I'm going to start off today. Star Wars Resistance, the animated show, has dropped their season 2 trailer today. It looks amazing. There's all your favorites have shown up, and we're seeing a couple other interesting little characters. The Crimson Corsair is in there, who wears the red helmet. You see him in Maz Kanata's castle, I
Oh,
believe,
wow.
in episode 7.
I'm gonna have to go watch that again, even though
And
that's
then,
not Force Awakens.
yeah, that's The Force Awakens.
The Last Jedi is the one I have a really hard time watching it. No,
It's okay. It's
no,
okay.
sure.
Well, anyway, but and then there's some interesting stuff going on that you see in the trailer, which looks really good. So hopefully, I believe the show starts on October 6th.
Oh, wow.
So it'll show up on I'm sure it'll show up in where it was before. Disney Now and Disney Plus,
And then Disney streaming is coming
The-
in November,
right,
right?
and then I'm sure it'll start showing up on there as well. Um, we've got the Sith Trooper action figure that was released at Comic-Con
Right.
in the red box. Well, the black box version is coming out in September.
Wow.
You can order it online, available September 4th, and then it'll start appearing in stores on September 10th.
Get ready for that stuff to wipe out.
And let's see here. We got all 10 Star Wars movies are going to have a physical re-release
I heard that
in September.
on Blu-ray.
Right, Blu-ray and digital. They're doing all new covers that they're, kind of like a theme so that they all look similar, So episodes 1 through 8 plus Solo plus Rogue One.
That's a must-have.
And then I'm not sure if they're also doing a separate DVD box as well.
It would be cool if they did a box set.
That would be nice. I'm waiting for episode 9 to get done so we can have all 9 movies as a box set.
Maybe that's what they'll wait for.
Yeah, that's what I would like to do, but those covers are really nice. I've seen them. They look pretty good. And I think the art's really nice. It's kind of a monochrome color, so like blue or red or whatever. Right. And then it has all the characters and stuff related to that film on the front. It's kind of a montage kind of poster kind of thing, similar to the Drew Struzan posters from the prequels.
It would be cool to have a box set with everything in it, like Rogue One, and Solo to
Oh
have it
yeah,
all in there because when I saw at Celebration they had that big banner and they had everything on there.
yeah, yeah.
It made me really happy because they're recognizing the Clone Wars.
Oh yeah,
They
yeah, yeah.
recognize Solo, they recognize Rogue One,
And
all these
yeah,
stories.
they recognize Rebels as well.
Yes, and
Hera was in there.
it was very
I love
impressive.
that poster.
So do I. I
I,
saw it at Comic-Con and I wanted it so bad,
I
but I
just need a
have
house.
$150. No, it was a smaller version of
Well,
it.
I want the big one, so I can have I want a 200-foot house, so I can just hang it on the wall. But the posters,
Just a long hallway,
yeah,
where it
yeah.
goes down.
Um, also, did you ever do Barbies?
Yeah, back in the day, I had a skipper.
Well, guess what? You can do Star Wars Barbies now.
No,
Yes.
when?
They will be available November 18th
Is through Mattel?
through Mattel. You can pre-order them now. There are 3 types. You have a Vader Barbie,
Oh, no.
an R2D2 themed Barbie, and then you have a Leia themed Barbie.
But it's Barbie.
But it's Barbie. Yes.
Oh my
So
gosh. I think I would like the Leia Barbie.
yeah, the Leia Barbie is going to look most like Leia and dark hair, brown eyes. It's basically the episode 4 costume.
Oh, wow.
The R2D2 themed one is Barbie in a dress, but it has like the R2D2 front on the upper part of her dress, and the rest of it, it's just kind of white and blue themed. And then the Vader one is kind of like a kind of a mashup of a Vader costume and a dress.
Like a lot of us wear.
Right, right, basically, yeah. Be prepared. They're going to be $100 a piece.
Oh,
So, and like I said, right now they're available for pre-order online, and then they'll be available on.
that's the hard part. When I see things like at Comic-Con or whatever, because I was over by the Weta workshop,
Yeah,
and they had a lot of Lord of the Rings stuff that I really wanted, but the price was just like, I can't do it.
yeah,
And so on the other side, they had a lot of the Star Wars stuff, and I wanted so much from
Oh,
over
yeah.
there, but even the Ahsoka window cover, but I'm not going to spend $35 for it.
Well, it's
And that's the hard part is like I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I need to buy a dress for a wedding that I'm going to, and I wanted it Star Wars themed, and but they didn't really. The dress I wanted was completely sold out, so I was really sad about that. And that was the purple dress. Oh my gosh, what's her name?
Amilyn Holdo.
Yeah, Holdo.
She was in episode 8.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've seen that dress. It's nice.
Yeah, it's
If
beautiful.
I was a girl,
but I
I'd
found
probably
one.
wear it,
I
but-
found a dress that has ships on it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes, it's a black dress with ships on it. And my husband said, "You're going to wear that to the wedding?" I said, "Oh, heck yeah."
We need to hook you up with Holly Fry. She makes her own dresses, and she makes her own custom fabric as well.
Oh, that's cool.
That has like Star Wars characters or whatever. She's really cool. If you listen to the Full of Sith podcast, say hi to Holly. She's really cool. Anyway, also we have two new books dropped
Okay.
as well. A Crash of Fate by Zoraida Cordoba, and that is a Galaxy's Edge book. It's a novel. It's about 250, 300 pages. I don't know anything about it yet because I have yet to read it. I got it. It's on my Kindle. Also, Star Wars Myths and Fables by George Mann, which is basically, it's a take on like fairy tales and
Oh, wow.
myths and stuff from the point of view of the Star Wars universe. So tales and stuff like that. It's not necessarily about the heroes. It's just stuff in the Star Wars universe with the kind of the folklore kind of twist. Hey, come back.
Jim's going through his notes.
Okay, notes. Yes, my screen went off. And those books are available now. Excuse me. And also Black Spire Outpost, which is another Galaxy's Edge novel by Delilah Dawson, is due out next week on the
Oh, wow.
24th. So
I'm going to have to I already have a closet full of the Legends or the EU Extended Universe. I have everything from Extended Universe, so now I'm going to have to start all over again.
yeah. And finally, a new book was announced that is coming out in November, and it's called Secrets of the Jedi by Mark Sumerak. And basically, it is the history of the Jedi Order as told by Luke Skywalker.
I'm really hoping that they kind of keep some of the old lore that was from the extended universe. I'm really
Yeah.
hoping that they keep that. But remember, he only knows what he knows.
Well, yeah,
He
yeah.
doesn't know anything prior to his birth. He only knows what was in that tree,
Right,
the
whatever,
books that were in
yeah,
the tree,
the sacred Jedi texts,
and
and then,
they could be based. Hopefully, we'll see what that's all about in the next movie because they made it a point to show when Ray opened up that thing in the ship.
she has the books.
Right, she has the books, but she was smart to take them. But hopefully, we're gonna extend on that. She'll be able to, we'll be able to see a little bit of that.
There was a little taste of it actually in the Poe Dameron comic,
Really,
right at the last like one or two issues, because the last one or two issues take place after Episode 8, and it actually shows C-3PO translating the books and reading them to Rey.
wow. I really hope that they put that in to the movies. But see, that leads us into what we're talking about today,
Right.
the comics, because the comics seem to fill all the gaps in the movies and in the
Definitely.
books.
Oh, definitely. And there's a huge history behind Star Wars comics, particularly in association with Marvel Comics.
Exactly.
And
Since 1977.
that is true. When George was putting together Star Wars, one of the things that he did when he signed the contracts to make the movie, he basically signed away his director's fee, which is usually through the Directors Guild and whatever.
Boy, he was really banking on this movie.
And what he wanted to keep was the merchandising rights and things like toys and the things that, the movie companies in the 1970s did not care about in the least. So like, oh, sure, you can have those. Nobody makes money on that anyway.
Right.
So Lucas is like, okay, cool.
And also same thing with the toy company,
Right.
because they allowed him to take this certain percentage where they only made a small percent of the toys because he was like a visionary where he saw where it was going
Right,
or
right.
where it could go.
Right. So, but basically in 1976, I think I'm not sure if it was Charles Lippincott, he was the guy in charge of licensing back then, but him and another guy went to visit Stanley, who was actually running Marvel Comics back in the day and in the 70s. And during that time in the 1970s, comic sales were dropping. They weren't as popular, probably because of the whole, the Vietnam War was happening, and a lot of movies were drifting towards negative anti-hero kind of stuff. And comics were not that. They had superheroes that were positive and all that. So comics were kind of dropping at the time.
I think back in 1977, the movies that we were seeing are more of like family issues. They were more like Saturday Night Fever. They were different. They were not based on superhero.
Oh, no. Well,
Not at all.
definitely. Well, and also it was just like The Godfather came out in 1974. It was it was about the mob. Okay.
Right.
And then you had like Gone in 60 Seconds, and you had Bullet, and you had Dirty Harry, and a lot
Scarface.
of Scarface. Well, Scarface was later. It was in the 80s.
A little bit later. Okay.
But anyway, so the comic industry was kind of
Taking a dive.
in a lull, and Stan was not terribly enthused about doing a Star Wars comic at
Really?
the time. He was like, I don't really want to do that. I don't have the resources to push it, and I'm not sure where it was going. It took a second visit by Lucasfilm reps to convince him, let's give it a shot and see.
George really wants this. Let's get this done.
Let's try it. Well, George was a no name back then, so saying he wanted something didn't really mean
They're like, who the
anything
heck
back
is
then.
this guy?
Remember, he only had one popular movie by then, and that was American Graffiti.
Yeah.
That was it.
But it was terrific.
Of
I
course it
tell you,
was.
it was one of my favorites.
But so anyway, Stan said, "Fine, we'll take a gamble and we'll try it." And issue 1 of Star Wars Marvel came out in April of 1977. Actually came out before the movie did.
Along with the book, right?
The novelization from the book from Del Rey came out in November of 1976, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
And I actually read it before I saw the movie. So
Wow.
yeah,
So you knew what to
oh,
expect.
well, I didn't know what to see in terms of visually because it
Oh,
was
that's
all
true because we had never seen anything like
right.
that
It was just a
before.
novelization.
So in
So
your
I
head, you're imagining maybe something
yeah, there
else.
was only a couple of images, and the very first trailer that came out
Nothing like
during the holidays of 1976, a boy, a girl, a million years in the making, and the rest. And there was only a couple of shots in that show.
man, they threw some breadcrumbs out and they were hoping everybody took it.
Yeah, and but anyway, it released and it sold, and then when the movie hit and it blew up, then the comics really sold, and it just took
Everything
off.
did. I think everything did
And
because it was what it's saying is Marvel Comics began in 1977, the Star Wars Marvel Comics, with a 6-issue comic adaptation of the film,
Right.
and ran 107 issues until 1986.
That is correct. It finished in May of '86, the month before I graduated high school.
Wow.
Yeah, I graduated in June of '86.
Now
So
there's another one that's a Black Thor Publishing.
I'm not sure about
It
that.
says released 3-issue run of a
Oh, the
3D
3D.
comics
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
1988. Hey, I stumped
Yeah.
you on something.
No, I do. I didn't research that part. I do remember hearing about it, and that there was a 3D edition of Star Wars that they did, and there was just a couple of issues.
Yeah, it wasn't very many
And
because it's saying that it ran from 1987 to 1988.
yeah,
So
it wasn't.
maybe it wasn't.
It was a limited run, and then you had Droids and Ewoks, which also ran in '87, and it was only ran for like a year and a half.
Now Dark Horse, I think, they did it for a while. This says
Yes.
says
19
limited series Star Wars Dark Empire in 1991 and ultimately produced over 100 Star Wars titles until 2014.
Right, and they did various things. Dark Empire was the first. They didn't really do like a generic like Star Wars, just like issue 1 through whatever. They usually did arcs. They did things like Republic, which was about the Clone Wars, and they focused on like a particular Jedi, for example, and various other things. They did adaptations of Timothy Zahn's Thrawn trilogy.
Wow.
As a comic. They did Tales of the Jedi, which was the first look into the old Republic. And that was the Sith Wars from 5,000 years before A New Hope. And so on. They did a bunch of different stuff.
So George allowed them to do that.
Yeah, he basically signed off on it. It was a license. Dark Horse carried the license to make comics from 90, like you said, 91 until 2014.
But do you think that George got some of his ideas for the Phantom Menace from the Dark Horse comics?
Maybe not necessarily. It's hard to say, because until the Phantom Menace came out and the prequels came out, he did limit what could be written in what time periods. So like he was not permitting anything before A New Hope to be written, except for like the Tales of the Jedi stuff and the Old Republic stuff, which took place thousands of years. He was waiting because he was contemplating making the prequels.
Right.
He actually started writing episode 1 in 1995, so it took a few years to get it going, but once he did, he did. And so yeah, there were some limitations, but like the name Coruscant comes from Timothy Zahn's trilogy.
Right.
Timothy Zahn basically named Coruscant.
It's kind of funny because when you're Timothy Zahn and the comics and also the games, the role play games,
Right.
those all kind of contributed
Definitely
to the Phantom Menace, to
Right.
what was going on with 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, and just adding expanded like info just for things like worlds and planets and ships and just names of stuff, because The obsession to name every character in all the films started with the RPG in part because they needed to name like, well, who's that guy who's sitting in the cantina in the corner that we don't know
Right.
about?
Because everybody wanted to know.
And what's the name of the species of the Wolfman or Kabe or
Even the devil
Cave?
guy.
Yeah, the Deveronians, and stuff like
That
that.
guy cracks
Kind of,
me up. But it's really cool that a lot of people from Dark Horse, from Marvel, from Timothy Zahn, they had almost the same ideas as George. George gave him
the jumping point.
the jumping point on where on hey, I'm gonna expand on these. But George also said, hey, you know what? We've got a think tank here. We got these people all involved and having the same ideas. I think that's what he really liked about all that. I think that was really kind of cool.
Yeah.
Now here's another one, including there was a manga adaptation
Mhm.
of Star Wars,
Yep.
of the original trilogy, a manga.
Yeah, I think manga is really cool, and just the anime style does really.
I think of manga, I think of like, Japanese animation, but maybe that's why we see a lot of the Star Wars shirts and things with the Japanese writing on it.
Oh yeah, I have one, so
Yeah,
um, it really lends itself well to the Star Wars universe, manga and anime style stuff because it's very dramatic and it has a lot of space opera
I
kind of
thought that
feel.
was really cool.
I mean, George Lucas wanted one of the original concepts was that he was going to hire a Japanese actor to play Obi-Wan. It wasn't going to be Alec Guinness. He wanted Toshiro Mifune, who's a classic Japanese actor,
That would have been really
and
cool.
he's the guy. He was in Yojimbo and he was in Seven Samurai and all this. He was in his I think
It's
he was
obvious
50s and
George
60s
sat
at the time.
around on Saturday afternoon watching Japanese
Well,
or
oh,
martial
definitely.
arts movies.
Kurosawa films was a huge part of George Lucas's diet, as well as John Ford and some of the other stuff. I mean, you can see little pieces. Like you watch A New Hope is the most pure of it, I think, in terms of looking at his film influences.
Yeah.
Because you see the wide, expansive shots of like the desert and stuff. That's straight out of John Ford. Akira Kurosawa, when he made his films in Japan, he was also a fan of John Ford. So he used a lot of similar stuff. And the basic story of A New Hope is almost a shot for shot remake of The Hidden Fortress, which is a Kurosawa film. And it's really, and elements of Hidden Fortress are all over Star Wars. R2 and 3PO are two of the main characters in Hidden Fortress. They're played by people in that movie, but R2 and 3PO are those two guys. It's very obvious.
That, I love how that all ties in. It's really, it all threads into and I think about, a big quilt because it all
Oh,
threads in, and I
definitely.
really like that. I know that's kind of a weird
I mean,
way to do it, but and it says here, adaptation, okay. The Phantom Menace, okay, Disney acquires Marvel in 2009 and Lucasfilms in 2012, and Star Wars comics license returns to Marvel in 2015. So it was Dark Horse, but then goes back to Marvel.
right. So Marvel gets it back. And then so they're like, "Oh, great, we'll just restart the line," and they did. And
Yes.
so the current lineup is pretty much now they have again a titled Star Wars comic, which is basically their main through line with all of the heroes, Luke and Leia and Han and all them. Um, issue one started right after A New Hope in terms of the time. Right now they're just about into the Empire timeline, and I think they're at issue 70 right now. So it's been going 70 issues. That's five, what's it? 12 times 6 is 72. So
Are they
that's
out
almost
once a
6 years.
month?
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
monthly issue. And they also do an annual every year as well, which is a separate thing. Then on top of that, they do individual story arcs and different individual characters. For example, they did two sets of Darth Vader comics. In 2015, they ran a 25 issue series. that took place during the Rebellion era. And then they did a second 25 issue series of Darth Vader that takes place right after episode 3. It shows you how Darth Vader got his lightsaber. It shows you how he's getting used to his armor and all the different little things that kind of hook him up.
That fill in the blanks between episode 3
in episode 4.
Rogue One, episode 4.
You see him building his Fortress of Solitude on Mustafar and why he built it there. And
for a constant reminder, but anyways.
There's some cool spoilers in there. So issue 25 alone is worth the price of admission. I'll say that. I have a physical copy of that. I tend to get my comics digitally because I can't afford a lot and I don't have a lot of room.
I know, it can pile up pretty quick.
But I do have some physical copies. I have issue 1. I have like 4 copies of issue 1 because I have the original mass market copy. I have a copy that is a copy of that the cover is a adaptation of the original 77 edition cover. Then I have a Stan Sakai custom cover that's signed by Stan Sakai. You were there.
Yes, I remember
that. Was at Long Beach Comic Con. And then I have a 4th that has characters from the old Marvel on there. It has like Jackson and some of the stuff. That's, if you remember issues 8 through 14, there's a story arc in there. 8 Against the Galaxy, I believe it's called.
No, I was going to say, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but okay, so you have all these new Marvel comics. Now, do they stay, is the comics from the past still linked in with the comics from now?
No. The original series that came out in the 80s is its own thing. It is considered Legends, and so those stories technically don't count, quote unquote. I like them. I still love them, and they count for me. But whatever. The new comics are considered canon. They are part of the official canon storyline. They are, Marvel Comics coordinates with the Lucasfilm story group. So what stories that they pitch and do that end up in the comics go through the story group, and so it's okay, we're going to link this to this and this to this and that. Because so you see adventures on Jeddah in the comics, and so Luke's been there, so little things like that. And basically all of the new comics are in the canon. Basically, in terms of fiction, largely speaking, all of the comics are canon, and all the new novel fiction is canon. And from basically 2014 forward.
Yeah, I think that's what it said from 2014.
And so, you have the Darth Vader comics. There was a Poe Dameron series that ran for 31 issues that was really good. Then you had some like limited edition series. They did a Leia series for 5 issues.
I remember that. Yeah.
Han Solo series for 5 issues. They did a Chewbacca series for 5 issues. One series that's been really popular and been doing really well is an original character called Dr. Aphra.
Yeah, I've seen that.
She's basically space archaeologist. She's kind of like an Indiana Jones character, but she's female. And she's also a ne'er-do-well that breaks the law a whole lot to do what she wants to do.
Sounds a little bit like Qui-Gon, but yes.
She's somewhat selfish, and really, really bad things happen, but they turn out okay in the end for whatever reason. It's a fantastic series. It's I'm not even sure how many issues in it is. It's well over 30, I think, and I've been following it pretty closely.
But hearing again, Star Wars and Lucasfilms they're very good at putting these comics in to fill in the blanks of the movies and the books.
Oh yeah, that's what's really
because
nice.
You just can't. Sometimes you can't get it all in a book, you can't get it all in the movie, but you can get it in the comic book because you can break it up into many, many different issues. And I think that's kind of a cool thing to be able to do. And also, when you do have the comics, guess what happens? You have kids wanting to read it. Now, I do think that reading has gone down a bit for kids because everybody's on their phones, everybody's playing the games on their phone. So you don't see as much interest but I do hope there somehow or another there is a resurgence
Yeah.
of kids wanting to read comics, and there and again it could be digital as well.
Oh, yeah.
Kids are into the digital, but either way, Disney is not going to give up.
Oh,
They're
no,
gonna
no,
they're
no, no,
gonna
no.
try and they're gonna keep going. And I mean, I see a lot of the little Ray books, for girls to be able to read,
Oh,
getting
yeah.
people interested in reading comics
Oh, yeah, they've
again.
done the little golden books,
Yeah,
which is in the same format as the little golden books that we had as kids.
right.
And so yeah, they're hitting every market in every way they can. And like the ones that I just announced today, you know, many of the books that they're calling like the journey to the rise of Skywalker are for young readers.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily for adult readers. I mean, adult readers can read them, obviously, but they're definitely aiming for a young adult crowd, young adult and child crowd, which
Yeah,
is
because
great.
that's a way of getting kids interested in reading and interested in the stories. And just like George did it in 1977, his target group was young boys.
Yeah,
Young boys like 12 to 14. That was his target group.
yeah.
And I think it has grown from there because those kids are still interested in Star Wars. But now it's a different time. So to get kids interested, they have to go a little bit younger for target readers.
Well, and that's the thing when you have parents who are introducing Star Wars to their kids, depending on which parent we're talking about, there are some of them introduce them as young as 3, some of them wait till they're 6, some of them wait till they're 9, whenever. And I mean, generally, it's usually through the films first in
Yeah.
most cases. But the thing is now there's so much out there. You don't necessarily have to show them the movies first. You can show, hey, look, there's this book. Check this out.
Or
this,
even the little Resistance show.
right.
Because it's geared towards children.
Hmm.
So that's really, really cool. But I do love that we went over the comics.
Yes.
I like that. We've done pretty much everything as far as our favorite music, our favorite costumes. So, I'm trying to think of something else for us to do. What maybe, because I don't have your version of it, because I've talked to the guys about it. I've talked to David and to Aaron about it, but we could do favorite books or favorite comics. I mean, I'm sorry, favorite costumes
Oh,
or
yeah.
favorite planets.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Which would you like to do?
Right now?
No, for our next show.
Oh, heck, I don't know. How about, I want to do favorite books.
Okay, we'll do favorite books. So we're going to do that next time. We'll do our favorite books. Jim's going to have a different version of what I had and what Aaron had, so that's great. So from all of us here at Radio Geonosis, we're going to end the show today. Please follow us on Facebook at Radio Geonosis 2.0. Please listen to our show on YouTube at Radio Geonosis. We also have an Instagram, Radio Geonosis, and Jim is working on our Twitter page.
Really, I am.
To keep us up. So from all of us here at Radio Geonosis, we'll see you next time.
And may the force of others be with you.